Tell us what we don't know about this fight between these two.
What they did was they worked with the New York Times, or publicists worked directly with the New York Times. They shared illegally obtained text messages. They shared those together. They concocted a complaint that they filed with the Civil Rights Division. They omitted texts that would have provided context.
Because of this comment, I now have extremely compelling evidence that Blake Lively actually gave New York Times her complaint before she filed it with the Civil Rights Department. The comment says, "This is great research. I don't suppose anyone has checked the metadata on the images in the New York Times article." Beautiful genius. But it wasn't the metadata where I found the date. It's the fact that New York Times labels their hosted images with dates. And this image, if you follow the images linked in the New York Times article, each image is hosted with its own link. We zoom in right here, you can see that says December 16th, 2024, which means that unless New York Times mislabeled the date for this, New York Times had Blake Lively's complaint for at least 5 days before they published the article. And it's not just this one. All of the graphics that they used are hosted like that. This one is dated December 20th, December 20th, December 18th, and then this one is from the 21st. There was no date attached inside the actual metadata, or maybe I'm just not technically advanced enough to be able to find that. Does any of this matter? Well, because Blake Lively's team are trying to say that Justin Baldoni's team are the first people that leaked this information to the press. And yet somehow on the 16th of December, they're able to make the headline image. We already knew because of the timeline, New York Times essentially had to have it in advance. Now I feel like we just know a little bit better about when they definitely had it by. I think this is proof that they had it at least before the 16th of December because they did have to develop this graphic. And by the way, it's really important who gave it to the media first, not who published it first, because the actual rule of professional conduct, Rule 3.6, which Blake Lively's team is trying to say that Justin Baldoni's team violated, the part where it talks about when you can defend yourself, a lawyer can make a statement to protect their client if it's a publicity not initiated by the lawyer or the lawyer's client. Not initiated. And I think initiated is the important word. It doesn't say published, it says initiated. And if the New York Times started making graphics for their articles by the 16th of December, I think it is very clear who initiated the release to the media. I mean, it was clear before this, but now we at least have a date.
The New York Times apparently reviewed 1,000 or more pages of text messages. They would have seen it. Justin never wanted to hurt her, never wanted to be negative to her. And it's all over the place. There are text messages that refute every single thing in that complaint. And it's just disgusting when you go after someone, you try to destroy their life.
Have you ever wondered what really goes on behind the scenes when Hollywood drama suddenly explodes across every headline? Rumors swirl, news outlets publish pieces seemingly overnight, and shocking accusations surface, only for internet sleuths to discover strange inconsistencies that turn everything upside down. Today, we're diving into a tangled web of allegations involving actor and director Justin Baldoni, actress Blake Lively, and her husband Ryan Reynolds, all tied to a baffling New York Times article. The twist? Explosive metadata may prove this story was in the works far earlier than anyone realized. This case has triggered speculation across social media, with watchers pointing to a possible Hollywood smear machine. But who's really pulling the strings? Could it be Blake Lively's legal team orchestrating the storyline before it went public? Or is Justin Baldoni the one stoking the flames to defend his reputation? One thing is certain, the deeper you dig, the more suspicious clues appear. Buckle up, because what was initially framed as a simple legal dispute might be on track to become one of the biggest showdowns in entertainment history. Not long ago, fans woke up to read a New York Times piece that accused Justin Baldoni of serious misconduct on set. The article cited Blake Lively's official legal complaint, painting Baldoni as a key figure in an alleged chain of abuses. But almost immediately, people started asking questions. Why did the Times publish so swiftly? And how did their journalists compile all that information seemingly overnight? In many high-profile cases, the press receives a tip or official statement giving them a head start. But the timeline here felt especially tight. Baldoni's supporters argued that he barely had a chance to respond before the story went live. Meanwhile, Lively's camp insisted they followed standard procedure, claiming Baldoni's team leaked the documents first. Confusion reigned as supporters from both sides took to social media, dissecting every new piece of information. All the while, another layer began to surface. Allegations that this was no mere reporting, but a carefully orchestrated smear campaign designed to destroy Baldoni's credibility. It's a stark claim. No major outlet wants to be labeled as part of a PR takedown. Yet, strangely enough, the evidence that soon emerged pointed to a much more coordinated effort than many initially assumed. The real turn of events began when a curious TikToker and self-described metadata fanatic decided to dig deeper into the images used in the New York Times article. For those who don't dwell in tech-savvy corners of the internet, metadata is like a digital fingerprint, embedded information that often includes creation dates, modification dates, and other hidden clues inside a file. When the Times published pictures relating to Lively's complaint, each image had its own dedicated URL. Astute observers zoomed in to find date stamps that appeared days earlier than the official publication date. This wasn't about one mislabeled file either. Multiple images had creation dates pointing to a time before Lively even publicly filed her complaint. To some, this served as smoking gun evidence that the story had been set up in advance, leading the conversation straight into the realm of potential collusion. Could the New York Times have prepared its visuals for a splashy release before certain crucial details were even on record? Critics certainly think so. They note it's standard practice for top-tier journalists to reach out to all parties involved and confirm each angle of a story. Yet, here, the timetable seemed suspiciously off, as if the coverage was pre-packaged and ready to go the moment the complaint hit the courts. That's the type of speculation that sets the internet ablaze with theories. The phrase Hollywood smear machine might sound dramatic, but it's a staple in the rumor mill of Tinseltown. In many high-profile disputes, especially ones involving big names, teams of publicists and lawyers deploy carefully crafted narratives to get ahead of the story. The official line is always, "We're simply responding to wrongdoing," or "We want the truth out there." Yet behind closed doors, it's a different world. PR experts pitch exclusive scoops to influential reporters, spin the angle that benefits their client, and push deadlines that favor their side. What stuns onlookers this time is the detail and speed at which the New York Times article appeared. Even more surprising is the claim that the Times never contacted certain individuals named in their piece for verification. Some journalists, cited as if they were part of a coordinated anti-Lively effort, spoke out and said, "We never got a call, an email, or anything." They insist they're independent and never received payment from Baldoni or his legal team, thus throwing the Times' framing into question. Meanwhile, supporters of Blake Lively maintain that a man in a position of power, like Justin Baldoni, has every incentive to manipulate the narrative. If that's true, it still doesn't explain why so many bizarre inconsistencies turned up once people started peeling back the layers. In high-stakes controversies, sometimes the cover-up allegations overshadow the initial complaint, leaving the public to guess which side's version of events is closer to reality. Given the chaos, it didn't take long for the legal gloves to come off. Justin Baldoni filed lawsuits that soared into the hundreds of millions of dollars, targeting not only the New York Times, but also Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and potentially other entities. If these numbers sound astronomical, consider the stakes. An actor's professional future, personal reputation, and livelihood are on the line. Media giant or not, the Times could face a devastating financial blow if Baldoni proves malicious intent or disregard for the truth. On the other side, Lively and Reynolds aren't backing down. They allege that Baldoni violated professional conduct rules by leaking sensitive documents to media outlets first, thereby instigating a wave of negative publicity against Lively. Their core argument? Once a public figure issues a formal complaint, the other party, especially a powerful producer or actor, should not retaliate in the press, as it exerts undue pressure and continues this cycle of abuse. This stance is controversial, though, because U.S. legal ethics generally permit a lawyer or a client to make a statement to protect themselves if the other side initiates coverage. As it stands, the question of who initiated coverage or gave the documents to mainstream outlets remains murky. One side insists that none of this would have surfaced had Baldoni not tried to discredit Lively by going public with partial truths. The other side claims Lively's team plotted to blindside Baldoni through a bombshell press release, orchestrating a negative media blitz that left him no chance to respond fairly. In short, both parties believe they're the ones who were ambushed. Remarkably, this entire saga has spotlighted a new generation of internet detectives who carry more influence than ever before. Platforms like TikTok, YouTube, and independent blogs are teeming with revelations, screenshots of archived links, and deep dives into publicly available court documents. Some of these creators have backgrounds in investigative journalism or media studies, while others are simply curious, resourceful fans who refuse to accept official narratives at face value. Their collective findings have prompted a wave of reevaluations. Did the New York Times fail to do even the most basic verification with individuals mentioned in their article? How did so many contradictions slip through the editorial cracks? Why were crucial images uploaded to the Times site days before the official filing date? As these questions hit mainstream attention, even the Times' longtime readers are starting to wonder about the once vaunted paper's due diligence. In an era where trust in big media is already fragile, controversies like this one can be devastating. Traditional outlets have historically positioned themselves as gatekeepers of truth, but instances of possible bias or sloppy reporting erode that reputation. Meanwhile, independent creators provide direct evidence for viewers through raw data, metadata analysis, and direct interviews, bypassing spin doctors and letting the facts speak for themselves. As both sides brace for more legal showdowns, the public is left to wonder, how far will this go? If Justin Baldoni's legal team uncovers more proof of coordination between Lively's lawyers and the New York Times, the potential fallout for all parties involved, Lively, Reynolds, the Times, and possibly even other studios, could be huge. It could reshape how public figures trust the media or attempt to orchestrate coverage. Meanwhile, if Lively's camp somehow proves that Baldoni and his allies did indeed leak sensitive documents and manipulated coverage to smear her, it would upend his credibility in the industry. Hollywood is famously secretive about behind-the-scenes politicking. A scandal of this magnitude could permanently affect how professionals handle on-set conflicts and alleged misconduct. The intersection of legal disputes, social media commentary, and mainstream coverage has also created a potent environment where narratives can shift almost hourly. Today, it might look like Lively's team dropped the first bombshell. Tomorrow, newly discovered documents might vindicate her stance. Public sentiment is likewise fluid, influenced by whichever side can provide the more compelling or shocking headline. This cycle feeds a frenzy that's prime for high retention, but risky for everyone's reputation. Already, we're seeing ripple effects. Fans of both Baldoni and Lively are taking sides more fiercely than ever, flooding comment sections with heated debates. Legal experts are chiming in about the thin line between defamation lawsuits and protected free speech. Even professionals in Hollywood PR are quietly acknowledging that this is a potential cautionary tale, an example of how quickly perceived manipulation of the press can backfire. Some wonder if the story will eventually reach a fever pitch in a court trial that's covered live, moment by moment, exposing every detail the public has been clamoring for. Others suspect the parties will settle behind closed doors to avoid further damage, knowing every new revelation has the potential to turn public perception upside down. As hush-hush as Tinseltown can be, the internet has made it nearly impossible to hide from damning evidence like metadata or internal emails. Should they ever be subpoenaed and leaked? The involvement of high-profile figures like Ryan Reynolds only amplifies the chaos, because every new rumor or legal move becomes entertainment fodder. If this continues, we might see years of depositions, filings, and shifting alliances, each step producing fresh headlines and fueling fresh controversies. With Hollywood's biggest power players potentially on the line, no one wants to walk away losing face. In the end, this story isn't just about Justin Baldoni defending himself against Blake Lively's accusations. It's about how fast misinformation can spread, how powerful mainstream outlets can either shape or distort reality, and how everyday internet investigators can uncover crucial information hidden in plain sight. It's also a cautionary tale about how easily the lines between truth and rumor can blur when major lawsuits, massive publicity, and personal lives collide under the relentless glare of global attention. What's true? And what's orchestrated spin? Are we witnessing genuine accountability for wrongdoing, or a cunning use of media muscle to orchestrate a takedown? For now, only those at the heart of this tangled web know the real story. One thing is certain, as more documents are revealed, more commentary floods in, and more depositions occur, the gap between official narratives and the raw details will only get wider. Will Justin Baldoni's massive lawsuits lead to a landmark judgment against the New York Times? Can Blake Lively prove that her initial claims deserve the spotlight without the swirl of suspicious leaks? Where does Ryan Reynolds fit into all this? And are his motivations purely protective or something else entirely? These questions, hanging in the air, form the true cliffhanger of this Hollywood saga. Until the final verdict or settlement emerges, the speculation will only grow stronger. Perhaps the real message here is a warning to anyone who thinks they can control a story in the age of internet sleuths. Metadata, after all, doesn't lie. And with social media ready to dissect each new piece of the puzzle, you can count on more surprises, more allegations, and more revelations to surface. The real question is, how will we recognize the truth when we finally see it? As the story continues to unfold, there's always more to discover. Thanks for tapping in now. Like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you're the first to know when more secrets come to light.